Welcome to the Happy Black Woman Podcast, where we're on a mission to empower women to transform their lives through personal development and entrepreneurship. We bring you all the information, inspiration, and motivation you need to create a life of happiness, success, and freedom. Now, please welcome your host, the happy Black woman herself, Rosetta Thurman.
Hello and welcome back to the Happy Black Woman Podcast. This is Rosetta Thurman coming back this week with another incredible guest to speak to you about creating a life of happiness, success, and freedom. And today I actually am going to be talking to a happy Black man that I have had the pleasure of getting to know over these past few years and following his work for even longer than that. And his name is Jullien Gordon. You will want to read his bio and find out so much more about him after this interview. But for now, I'm going to just welcome Jullien to the show and let him tell you more about his story. So welcome, Jullien.
I'm so glad to be here. How are you?
I am good. I am very, very good. I'm very, very excited to have you on the show. I know that this time of year is essential for you because of the work that you do. So let's dive right in and tell everybody, what is the work that you do? Tell me about your mission.
Yeah, my mission is really helping people experience more happy hours. So you're right. I got to get happyblackman.com. No, but it's really about helping people experience more happy hours. And happy hours are, moments where you're fully present and where you're experiencing joy. And I think a lot of people go through life and they measure success based on solely income. And that's great. And it's one of the most powerful metrics to have. But, there are 30-year-olds in this world who have experienced more happy hours than 90-year-olds who have 10 times their wealth. And so if we really get serious and we look at a bird's eye view at our life, I think what we all really want is more happy hours. And the reason we go after money or whatnot is because of what it's going to get us. We don't want paper, right? We're not looking to have green paper or shiny coins. They don't do anything for us, but it's what we want and what we believe that thing can get us. And I think what we ultimately want is more happy hours. And so I try to help people design their lives in such a way where they can experience as many happy hours as possible with a lot of ease. I think the narrative that we have around whether it's climbing the corporate ladder or whether it's being an entrepreneur, is this idea of hustle and working hard. And I believe that there are periods where you should work hard, but the goal isn't for stress to be part of success. I don't think those two have to go hand in hand. They're not part of the same equation. I think that you can have success without the stress, without the suffering, without the sacrifice, and without the solitude. And so I try to create experiences and tools and spaces that allow people to have that actual experience of life.
I love it. And I know that at this point, so many of our listeners are saying more success and less stress. Sign me up for that. Sign me up for more happy hours. And so before we get into a little bit more of your story, Jullien, I just wanted to share with our listeners how I came across you. I mean, I think it was a mutual friend of ours that was like, look, you guys are doing similar work. This was years ago, as we were both talking about designing the life that you want in different ways. And you were doing your professional speaking and going around to colleges. And I went to your website and I saw you had this event that you were doing called, I think it was called Department of Motivated Vehicles.
Yes.
It probably seems so far, long ago for you because your work has evolved so much. But I was so inspired by that. And I think that's when I started following you and maybe signed up for your email list and maybe reached out to you or something. But the work that you've always done to me as I've kind of watched you is around helping people design the lives that they really want and really reminding people of what's important. So, what made you decide to start your business in the first place? What was that motivator for you?
Yeah, so I'm originally the son of two doctors. And so growing up, I had the quote unquote Cosby family. I didn't have a doctor and a lawyer, but I had two doctors, Black people, Black adults and professionals who were well paid and had kind of reached the top in their careers. And as a son of two doctors, it was great because I was provided for. But when I look at it in hindsight, or even when I was in the experience of being a kid, my parents weren't that present. Mm-hmm. And so my parents had the Cosby dream, but they weren't that present. And I like to tell people that, a lot of people like the Cosbys before Bill did his thing or whatever. A lot of people would look to the Cosbys as a model, but the Cosbys wasn't actually true, because how many people do you know where there are two high paid professionals at the heads of the household, and they're home in the middle of the day, right? They're home in the middle of the day. Doctors and lawyers aren't home in the middle of the day. Right. And so what did our generation do? We were going after being doctors and going after being lawyers. And now people are in those professions and they're like, wait a second, I don't have any time for my own life, right? And medicine is a little bit different because it's often case emergency services, right? It could be a life or death situation. So I can understand when lives are on the line, but for every industry, it's not a life or death situation that's occurring, but we start treating it like that. And so as I was growing up and maturing and stepping into my work, I started engaging in workaholism. Workaholism is something that we wear as a badge of honor. Oh, I was putting in 100 plus this week, et cetera, as if that's the badge of honor. But, there's a lot of people who are doing busy work who aren't doing business, right? Whether it's social media or whether it's doing this or that, they're putting all this time and energy and they feel busy. But when you look at their revenues or their profits, they're not doing business, right? And so I had to start getting really clear on what was business and what was busy work. And what really helped me do that was my marriage, getting married to my wife, who was able to hold up compassionately a mirror for me to show me that my work had no boundaries at that point in time. Because as you step out into entrepreneurship, and this is important for your listeners, you step out in entrepreneurship and you're like, oh, I'm doing this because I want to be free. I don't want to be bound by a corporation and this and that. And what tends to happen is you end up not an entrepreneur, but you actually end up self-employed. And now you're not only your own boss, but you're also an employee, and you treat each other mean, right? And you start, in a lot of cases, if you don't set up your business right from the beginning, you start slaving to your own self. And I found that I was working, of course, you want to work harder for your dream than you work for anybody else's, but I had no boundaries around work. And as a single man, that was fine, right? Because it wasn't bumping up against anybody else. It wasn't affecting any relationship. Well, it affected my friendships, but there was no romantic relationship in place. And then as my wife came into my life, I started to see how my work was spilling over into and intoxicating my personal life. And I had to really start asking some questions. And then about 16 months ago, my daughter came into being, and you get a 9-month runway when you find out about them. And so I just started making some huge changes. And I have to say that even with my daughter present, not as if she's a negative thing, but in her presence, I have been able to be not only a more present husband, father, but my business has also grown 30%. Right. So
that's incredible.
Yeah. So most people think.
People think the opposite, right? It's like if you slow down, if you take time, you're gonna have less. But the truth is that you got more.
Yes, I got more. And so it really came to eliminating busy work. Like for you, I know in particular, social media rocks, right? You get tons of shares and tons of likes. Your Facebook fan page is through the roof. But for my angle of the work, because we do similar work, but my angle of the work in my audience, that's not really where they vibe out. So even if I invest the same amount of energy and do the exact same things as you do from a social media standpoint, it's not going to have the same result for me. So I have to figure out what actually works for my business, what works for my audience. Because if I'm trying to copy or replicate other people, then that ends up being busy work. And I feel like I'm doing things, I'm checking things off. I got my social media down for the week, etc. But when I look at my social media and it says, oh, you got 5 new likes on your page, it doesn't add up, right? So it really forced me to think about, Jullien, where has all your revenue come from thus far? Right? And just tracing it back to the relationships, not to the company, not to the video, but to the relationship, right? The actual person. And when I looked at the relationships that were causing and creating financial resource for me, then I just started focusing more on key relationships in my life. And that has made all the difference.
Oh, that is incredible. I love this. And I just have to say that I love that we're having this conversation with you, with the male experience. I mean, as women, we have a different experience around what it means. The term work-life balance is thrown around a lot for us, the kids and the husband and all that. But looking at it from the opposite perspective, and as an entrepreneur, it's very refreshing to see what it's like on that other side, and what you've been able to do to navigate that. speaking of navigating, that whole process of building your business, growing your business, not just building it and maintaining it, but growing it. I'm curious to know what are some of the specific things that you did that can help our listeners take some action steps today. So you mentioned that you looked at how you're spending your time, and let's get a little deeper into the nitty gritty of exactly what that looked like for you.
Yeah, so the first thing was asking for help. Once I started asking for help, not only from my own fans and followers, but actually hiring help, that made a huge difference. Now, when you hire, of course, you think that money is going out the door, but if you actually hire the right person, they're going to bring in more revenues than they take in the form of salary, right? Mm-hmm. So I hired a virtual assistant, and we started off slow at a few hours a week, and as she started to understand my business a lot better, that time increased, and we're moving towards eventual full time. So that was extremely helpful. And so now, even when I'm with my family, when I'm going to pick up my daughter at 5 o'clock, because now that's the end of my workday can't just go until 8, 9, 10 o'clock. Right. But now I'm getting emails or text messages that this is done, that is done, this is done, that is done, and it's not me. So I didn't necessarily replicate myself. You don't want to hire your twin, right? You're actually trying to hire your complement or people who complement you. And I found somebody, and I'll be looking for more people going forward. And in fact, I'm actually looking for people at all times. Anytime somebody can come to me and say, Jullien, I've been following you. I've been reading your emails. I've even taken some of your programs. Here's where I think I can create value for your business. I can create $20,000 in value for your business, and this is my fee. If that value that they can create and they can prove it is higher than what they take, then I'm down to do a contracting relationship with anybody who can come to me and say that I'm going to create more value for your business than I take in the form of salary or in terms of pay. So thinking about business in that way, that's how you grow. That's how you scale.
Pause there because I want to make sure that everybody caught it. I know that our ladies love to listen to our podcast and take notes. So that is so huge what Jullien just said about hiring help. And first of all, recognizing that you need help. That's like the first step, right? So yeah, recognizing that you need help and hiring the help and hiring a VA. So just a follow-up question on that, because so many people ask me about this, and there's so many different places that you can find a VA or get referrals. So how did you find your assistant?
Yeah, so I did something pretty creative. I put out a job description to my audience, inviting anybody to make a proposal, not send a resume. I asked them to make a proposal that showed that they could create value. And I sent that out to my list, and people forwarded it, et cetera. And there were about 30 people who came back with a proposal. See, I don't do resumes because resumes don't articulate or show. Resumes don't show what it is that you're capable of. Right. So I was asking people to actually show me actual results connected to what was listed in the job description. And from there, I found about 6 candidates that I interviewed. I narrowed that down to 3. I ended up having contracting relationships with 2 of those, and I ended up hiring 1. So that's how I reached out, because these were people who were already reading me. They already understood my business in the direction. They were already inspired by the work. And if they had a skill set that could match, then I was down to work with them.
Oh, that's great. I love the process you described. And, a lot of you might want to go back and rewind and just kind of trace back what Jullien said, because it's simple, but it is a process. And I love it because we have a similar process for all the team that I have for Happy Black Woman. Is I can't stand resumes. They just show what you've done in the past, and it doesn't really give me a sense of what your potential is for the future. So I love that you had them create a proposal. That's really awesome. It's so in line with what you teach, right? Because you teach people how to create their consulting business on the side, in addition to other things that you do. So it's definitely in line with your business model. For sure.
Yeah, and that's why I knew I would find who I needed within the context of my existing audience.
Mm-hmm. Good. So identify the help you need. Find somebody to help you. You can do that through a creative process like Jullien described. And what else did you do to create more happy hours?
Yeah, so to create more profit and revenue, the next thing was creating products for my existing clients. Right. So, you know, that I had built this speaking business, especially on the college market. And I do a lot of repeat work with those clients. And so I was really just curious how I could serve them at a deeper level. So I actually made a product that would sell in bulk to them, which allowed me to increase my fees as I put them into a package. So rather than just me coming and speaking for a 90 minutes and then flying out right after that, now not only am I speaking to your students, I'm also training your staff. And in addition, your students also get copies of my tool that's going to help them graduate on time. So by productizing, I'm not making an additional trip, right? All I've done is actually served an existing client at a deeper level. And that was huge for me this year.
Right. I love that. You created additional products to serve your existing clients. So in sales, some people call that upselling, you know, having products that you can upsell them to. And what's genius about that is that you didn't create something new for a new market. You created something for the market that was already in front of you.
Yes. And I knew that market well because that's where I started. I've been engaged with that market for almost 8 years now. And so I knew the need, and it just took time to engage in the product development process and then deliver.
Oh, I love that. There's so much we can talk about there. I know we need to move on, but I just want to point out with what Jullien just said, the brilliance of it is that so many of us, when we want to grow our business, we think that the growth is out there with new people and new campaigns and new marketing and new everything. But we often forget about the people who have been supporting us and they've already bought everything that we have and they're just waiting for another opportunity to work with us. And we overlook that. And it seems like such a low-hanging fruit, the way that you put it.
Yeah, it's harder to go get a new client and a new customer. Of course, you would love to get new clients and new customers, but it's harder to do that. If you have somebody who's already eating from your hand, per se, then yeah, and they're still hungry, they're still thirsting for knowledge and for what you have, then you have to go figure out what you can supply them with. They don't know everything that you know, so how can you take and really break down your own processes and turn that into a product, whether it's a book, whether it's an online program, in order to share that with them? Because what comes natural to you is not natural to them. It's natural to you because you know how to do it. And so it's really, sometimes we undervalue that which we are actually capable of, and therefore we don't productize it and we don't put it out there in the world because we're like, oh, everybody knows how to do this. The reality is, guess what? Everybody doesn't know how to do that. That's extremely valuable to people. And you can go search on Google how to do blah, 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 and you will see that there are millions of searches or pages trying to help people do that because not everybody knows how to do that.
Right, exactly. No, I love it. And it would cut down on so much of our work if we focused in on the people who are already interested in what we have to offer. That will shave off so much time from a lot of ladies listening to the podcast now who are still trying to go out there and they haven't looked within. Awesome. Great. What else can you share with us that we can take action on today?
If you are single and there are no boundaries, I'm encouraging you to create boundaries for your work. And it's going to cause you to be more efficient. So one example is normally college takes 4 years to graduate. I actually graduated from UCLA in 3 years in a shorter amount of time, right? And so in order to do that, I had the same amount of classes or same amount of units, but I had to be more productive with the time that I had. And so what that is speaking to is this idea of Parkinson's law. And Parkinson's law says that work expands the field, space, and time. So if I give you, Rosetta, 120 minutes to take a test that only takes an hour to take, how long do you take? You take 120 minutes. Right. But if I give you 60 minutes to take the same exact test, you will complete it without any compromising in the quality of your results, right? And so what's the difference? That's actually, we wasted the time. That's a wasted hour. And so oftentimes we think, oh, I put in 10 hours a day, I put in 12 hours a day. And the reality is, how many quality hours did you put in, right? What was the quality of your work? Because you could have got all that work done in 6 hours if you just focused. Right. Instead of 12, you could have got it done in 6 if you focused. And now you are done with your work day at 3 p.m. You can go do a run. You can go have lunch with a friend. You can go take that yoga class. You can do whatever because you were focused. And one way to do that, my daughter is force me to do it, which is I'm so happy for because I have to pick her up at daycare. I can't just leave her at daycare. So by scheduling making dinner plans with your friends who are still stuck in corporate at 6:00, that's going to force you to finish your workday at a certain time. Mm-hmm. By taking a yoga class, by getting involved in an intramural sport, by getting involved in your church, and those things being time stamped at 5, 6, or 7:00 is going to force you to bring your workday to an end. And when you know that there's an end, it forces you to show up at a higher level when you're actually in it, because you know it's not going to be like a run-on sentence.
Right. Oh, that's great. I mean, one of my mentors calls that putting a wedge in for your intentions. So if you put a wedge in, like an appointment with a friend or something that you're paying for, a class or something, it's like a wedge that forces you to do the thing that you said you wanted to do in the first place, but it's kind of forcing you to stick to it.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. We're on the subject of schedules. I'm so curious to know about what your typical day is. And I know that it's changed. You had a schedule when you were single, and it seems like your workday went on forever into the next day. But now, as a parent, as a husband, what's your typical day where you're able to stay so productive in your business and grow your revenues so drastically?
6:30 wake up, try to use 6:30 to 7 to kind of envision the day. That can be meditation. That can be looking at my planner. And I have a paper planner. I use Google Calendar, but I also have a paper planner. There's something for me about actually writing things down. And so that's like 6:30 to 7, just kind of creating a vision for what's coming up today and getting my mind mentally ready. Daughter wakes up, get her ready, take her to daycare, come back, start 7:45, 8. May have a meeting with team member. The way I try to structure my week is Monday is kind of slow and it's kind of really envisioning laying out the plan for the week. Mm-hmm. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, when your energy is actually at its highest, that's when you are checking off your to-do list and just knocking things off. And then, Wednesday's hump day, whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee, and things start to slow down, you start looking forward to the weekend. So Thursday is kind of like clean up and tying up loose strings. And then Friday is, again, kind of like just weekly processes that you have to do that are kind of every week. So that's when I'll record my podcast. That's when I'll do my weekly type things. That's when I'll look at the numbers. I'll look at any statistics that are relevant to my business and kind of just do a review of what happened and how we move forward in the past week. So that's how it typically goes. I try to do calls. I take lunch. I know a lot of people eat through lunch or work through lunch and skip lunch when we're in this entrepreneurial mode. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for your body. It's important to have a halftime in your day and take a break. Athletes do it. Why can't you do it? So I take lunch all the time. So I'm a morning person. So I try to knock things out in the morning and then take calls in the afternoon. That's why you and I are on this call in the afternoon, because that's what's best. That's what's best for me. Right. So my mornings are I try to leave them open, but in terms of my planning process, I have a tool that I created called the High Performer Plan. On Sunday nights, I envision the entire week. So the first thing that goes in, of course, is all the appointments and meetings. So you were in there on Sunday, right? Then I have my to-do list. And before the day actually starts, I start plugging those to-do list items into my calendar as if they're a dentist or doctor's appointment, right? So that they're there. They're in there, because every item on your to-do list has some sort of time associated with it, but we keep our to-do list over here and our planner over here. Right. If it's really that important to you, then it needs to be in your calendar, just like a meeting. I'm not going to miss this call with Rosetta because it's scheduled at a certain time. And our priorities, our to-do list, those are priorities, and they actually need to be scheduled. Right. But we only schedule the things, oftentimes we only schedule the things that are not important. We schedule meetings, right? Which we know are not important. We schedule those and we show up on time for those, or we might be a little bit late for a meeting, but we don't schedule the things that we actually need to do that week. Right. And so that's my Sunday night process. It takes about 15 minutes to lay out the vision for my week. And my goal isn't to make it full, right? Because things happen in the week and you have to shift things around like Tetris, but it's really to just create a vision to make sure that there's space and time for the things that I need to do. And if I can't fit everything that I want to do into that week, then guess what? I have to make priority choices and shift some stuff and say that's going to have to happen next week. So that's how I look at it. And some weeks are full of meetings and flights and other things like that. So I look at my week and I'm like, oh, wow, I only have 12 hours of quality work time. What is the best use of that time, that kind of time that I can manipulate? What is the best use of that 12 hours? It's not 40 hours every week. Right. You're on flights, you're traveling internationally. You have calls, podcasts. You're not only doing your podcast, you're on other people's podcasts, etc. So not every week looks the exact same, and you have to figure out how to prioritize and move your strategic initiatives into that space and time that is available.
Yeah. I mean, I love what you said about using your calendar and having that guide you as a vision, or you guiding your calendar as a vision from the beginning of the week. And it's another kind of wedge that you put in for the priorities that you have. And I'm really curious because I know that we have a lot of ladies who are married and who are in romantic relationships. I'm just wondering, how do you structure do you have dedicated time with your wife? Do you guys do date night, and is it on a specific day or no?
No, we're still trying to figure that out. Jada, our daughter, has changed our life and flipped it upside down, and we're still trying to find great care in terms of babysitter that can be in the evening. She goes to our aunt's house in the morning or during the day, but we're trying to find additional support and friends who can take her in the evening so that we can actually have date night. But one thing that we do is when my wife gets home or I get home, we take a walk. And we call it an affirmation walk. And we walk around the block, and on each leg of the block, we affirm each other. So I'll say, I'm so glad you did the dishes. I'm so glad you cooked last night. And she'll be like, I'm so glad you cleaned up the backyard. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the way you listened to me when I had a rough day, whatever, right? And each leg of the block, that person gets a chance to go. We also do this thing to reconnect in the evening called 2 highs, 1 low. And my wife made this up. And we just share 2 highs from the day and 1 low. And it's just an opportunity for us to come together and reconnect, right? And not just go straight into the dinner routine and the TV or whatever routine, or even get lost in Jada. It's really a time for us to connect. And when she's in the stroller, her and I can actually talk. So that's been really powerful. And as Jada gets more mature, we will have more space because she'll be able to stay with other people for longer periods of time. But right now we're in flux, and we're okay with that. We know where we are in our relationship because of our daughter's presence. But those 2 things, very simple, 15, 20 minutes when both people get home to connect, and just to reconnect as a couple after going out into the world separately, unless you work together, going out in the world separately and coming back and just reconnecting.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I mean, this is the answer to the question of, how can I be an entrepreneur and still maintain my relationship, my marriage, and all that? Because a lot of things fall apart when you don't have that reconnection. So thank you for sharing so transparently about what you're doing and what you're looking forward to doing in the future in that area. So I love it. We've covered so much so far, and I just have a few more closing questions for Jullien here, but we're going to take a moment and hear a message from one of our amazing sponsors, and we'll be right back with the Happy Black Woman podcast.
What if you could change your life in just 31 days? That's what you can expect when you sign up for my month-long personal development program, 31 Days to Reset Your Life. This program is for you if you are ready to figure out exactly how to start living the life you really want and get back on track. And it's perfect if you've been stuck in a rut for a while and you really want to press the reset button on your life and start over fresh. You can learn more about the 31 Days to Reset Your Life program at 31dayreset.com.
So welcome back to the Happy Black Woman podcast, where we've been talking with Jullien Gordon and really talking about this whole idea of creating more happy hours in your business and really maximizing your freedom and happiness as an entrepreneur. And really want to get into our closing inspiration round with Jullien here. And I want to start off with asking you one of my favorite questions. What makes you happy?
What makes me happy is, being with family and watching my daughter and my wife grow. There's just no greater feeling and experience. And the more time I have with them, the happier my life is. But it's not just connecting with them. They are the center of my life. But just breaking bread with friends, especially when I'm traveling for work, being able to not even stay at a hotel, but to actually stay at a friend's house and have dinner with them and just observe the way life continues to bring people together and me to people and people to me. That's what makes me happy. I was actually doing some research on happiness and asking people what were their happy hours for the week. And I did this for quite some time. And there were 6 particular categories that people experience more happy hours. And they had to do with relationships, rekindling old relationships or making new ones, renewal, self-care, taking me time, recreation, just getting out there and having fun, or watching some inspirational media, or finding some good food, reciprocity, which was creating a chance to create and inspire others, and giving and receiving gifts. You know, the holidays, a lot of that goes on. Reimagining. A lot of people found happy hours in anticipation of something to come, right? You haven't even had the experience yet, but just the anticipation of it actually brings people joy. And then just pure gratitude, recognition, and realization of what they already have. So yeah, that's where I found the 6 buckets that I found people experiencing happy hours, including myself.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And, I know that you are very well read, and we love reading books here in the Happy Black Woman Tribe. So what is your favorite book and why that you could recommend?
Well, I like this book called The Perfect Power Within You. And it's a 70-day kind of affirmation meditation program. And it's just been really powerful. It's one of 2 books that I've read 3 times. I've read that book and The Alchemist 3 times. And it's by Jack and Cornelia Addington, 70-day affirmation meditation program. It's just so powerful. It's really the way I cleanse my mind and to prepare for a new beginning at any time. It doesn't have to be New Year to have a new beginning, but it's a way to just purify my thoughts so that I'm actually seeing the world with clear perception. And I like the fact that it's action oriented. It's one thing to read and be inspired, but I don't think inspiration is enough unless it gets turned into action, right? And so this book is kind of like action based because it forces you to do something every single day for 70 days. And that's where I think real transformation happens. Inspiration is good, but I don't think it's enough.
Yeah, I love it. Speaking of inspiration, what is your personal mantra? I mean, we talk about personal mantras a lot here in our community, and I have one that I use every year. Then I have different ones for different places in my life. For you, do you have a motto or a saying or quote that you live by?
Change your day, change your life is one that I use for myself. I don't know if I created it, but it came through me. It's probably out there if you search for it. But the other one is that based on my book, The 8 Cylinders of Success, your life is your vehicle to design, drive, and maintain. But most people end up backseat driving through life or driving other people's vehicles. I want people to be in the driver's seat of their lives. And anytime before I get on stage, I have this song that I sing from the Agape Spiritual Center by Ricky Byers Beckwith, and it goes, use me, oh God, I stand for you. Here I'll abide as you show me all the things I must do. Show me. So that's what anytime I go on stage, I'm trying to be a channel. It's not about me professing or projecting that I'm an expert. I'm just trying to be a channel, and I have an opportunity to speak in front of a large audience, and I just want to be used so that I can touch whatever life is meant to touch, or whoever needs that message right then and there. And as a result of starting with that, none of my presentations ever come off canned because I'm being used as an instrument in that moment, and they all come off different, and it lands differently on different people's ears. So yeah, those are some of my mantras. Your life is your vehicle to design, drive, and maintain. Change your day and you will change your life, and use me.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Good stuff, Jullien. Well, I can't let you go without asking you about a number 1 tip that you would give to all of our women, our happy Black women who are thinking about starting a business, doing what they love.
Number 1 tip.
Yeah.
Number 1 tip. Number 1 tip is just don't compare. don't compare. There are maybe a ton of health coaches or yoga instructors. Don't compare. You can look at somebody as a model, but don't compare, because something is uniquely trying to be expressed through you. And if you're trying to compare or be like somebody else, whether it's in their marketing or in their language or how they deliver their message, then it's going to come off as unauthentic. And so I just know that something unique is trying to be expressed through you, even though you may be in the same lane as somebody else. You are unique, and follow that. If you have some sort of quirk, or if you're silly, then incorporate that into your brand and who you are. If you are goofy, if you're serious, then incorporate that, because there are going to be people who resonate with that. So do that, and you will find your tribe, and your tribe will find you.
Yes, I love it. Your tribe will find you. Cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom with us. One thing that I love about Jullien, is you guys probably have shown, is that he speaks in like powerful sound bites. So I know that my podcast team will be able to chop this interview up and give you guys the goods in our show notes. But last thing, how can people stay in touch with you? I know that you've just shared not even a fraction of the tip of the iceberg of what you know and can share and can serve our Happy Black Woman community. So how can we stay in touch with you and get some more of your wisdom?
Yeah, so you can go to julliengordon.com/NYG. That's JULLIEN, Gordon, GORDON /NYG. NYG stands for New Year Guide. That is an annual tool that I put out to help people intentionally design their year and thus their life. And it's been downloaded by thousands and thousands of people. The 2016 version just came out. And so I encourage people to go there. Once you download that, you'll get access to my emails and some other free tools that will help you get closer towards freedom and experiencing more happy hours. So let's start there, and then let's talk.
Awesome. I mean, so generous for you, Jullien, to offer your 2016 New Year's Guide to our community. We love tools that will help us create our ideal lives. And this is one that is intentional, that's going to help you design the life you want and really create the lifestyle that Jullien's been talking about, that includes all the important things and the values that you have. So thank you for giving us that. And it's julliengordon.com/NYG. And the link will also be in the show notes, so you can click the link and download it there. Jullien, thank you for being with us. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
And for everyone who has not listened to our previous interviews, they have all been incredible. Jullien is just one of them. And what I would encourage you to do is, after you listen to this interview and download Jullien's guide, go back to all of our previous podcasts and listen to the amazing women and really take notes and prepare for a great 2016. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Happy Black Woman podcast. If you want all the show's notes from today's episode, go to happyblackwomanpodcast.com. Plus, we'll send you a copy of Rosetta's free life mapping workbook. We look forward to empowering you next time. And until then, do something this week that makes you happy.